we start to realize that everything we've lived so far was a lie. I've been trying to unmask the myths and the manipulation and brainwashing since after my near-death experience, when I had my abrupt awakening. The realization that more and more people are having in these days is that nothing is what it seems. That everything that we've been sold was a lie. That the social structure is built on a top-down, pyramidal, power-grabbing structure that is meant to keep the bottom enslaved in order to sustain the top. Without a base, working and laboring and doing so for pennies, really, compared to what the top get. The top will never get the superior position. Quite literally, if they won't climb on top of your shoulders and on top of your head, they can't be at the top. So the top needs always a bottom, and that bottom needs to be preserved in order for the top to be preserved. And like the top, those that have been always on top of society, the ruling elites, the industrialists, and so on, they have always preserved their top position by maintaining the bottom at the bottom. There was never, and there will never be, accepted that the bottom goes to the top. Here and there, they allowed, and that was orchestrated, they allowed some writer, some black person like Oprah, some single mom like J.K. Rowling, and few here and there now became celebrities and billionaires to succeed in order to maintain the illusion, in order to give people the illusion and the false hope that even you, if they could do it, you could do it too. And then from then onward has started this other branch of the brainwashing of society, of positive motivation, of entrepreneurial and coaching for success, on behavior modification, on stoicism, on just work and get at the top. If you do this and like wake up at 5, run, do this, do that, increase look at all the diets that there are, implement this, implement that. And then the success, coaching for success, whether it's visualization, whether it's law of attraction, whether it's all the nonsensical different kind of mixed up currents imprinting from behavioral psychology, from pseudo-spirituality like New Age, from social psychology, from and quite literally from social conditioning. They all converge at the same point. Give the poor the impression that there is a way out, and keep the carrot within their reach, but without them realizing that, you keep moving it further away from them. If you only had, and then the Hollywood with the inspirational movies, and then the inspirational YouTubers, and then the inspirational TED Talk, and everything converged at the same point. Let it give them the impression that they have a chance, that they're within this setup, that it's fixed, has always been since the beginning of this human civilization, that they have room for maneuver had they work harder, had they tried harder, had they got up one time more when the life and when the unequal and unfair social system has thrown them down, had they woke up one more time to give them their all, even when they didn't have any energy, any juice left in them. And that's what it makes the difference. That's what it takes. Basically, without realizing, people were indoctrinating to never complain and to never question whether the fight that they were engaged into against that kind of adversity, it was whether that was the setup and the prism through which they should actually look at the problem, instead of disengaging completely and saying, sorry, I'm not playing this game. This game has been played forever, and I'm not doing it. I know that there is no way out. There are no winners here. And I'm wise enough to realize that the 1%ers that apparently have made it to the same means, I'm not convinced that they really succeed because of their hard work and ingenuity, and because they didn't give up, rather than you setting up their success to look like this is what you have to do. So to have me then distracted from the abuse, the total abuse of the bottom by the top, and convinced or brainwashed to believe that if we tried hard enough, if we work hard enough, and if we compete hard enough amongst ourselves, we too could get there. And in fact, not only that, but to normalize the desire to arrive at the top, instead of making the top, with the top being the abuser, making it a desirable position, an enviable and desirable position, instead of seeing it for what it is, the abuser. Because within this setup, you are conditioned not only not to fear the top, but to want to become part of it. And not necessarily to save your life from abuse, but because you are so brainwashed, and you are so along so millennia really of conditioning to see it as the desirable ultimate social status, the definition of respectability and of dignity of human life, the summum of really being an accomplished person, an accomplished human, arriving at the top of the pyramid, where you can really matter. Because at the end of the day, everybody in this life is driven by the need to matter, to be loved, to make a difference, and they have used those fundamental human needs in such a way, and in such a subtle and insidious way against us. So now when we are looking, going back to what is happening today in society, things that I've been saying for decades, and I looked crazy at the time, and I tried to do it in a way that would not cause too much stress and crisis to the people exposed to that kind of knowledge and reality. In today's world now, we see that people, by the sheer evidence, by the sheer poverty that people have been thrown into, as a natural consequence of what I've been saying for decades and what I've been, it was bound to happen. You can only suck and suck and suck from the bottom until there are no more resources left. And then when those resources are no longer there, what are you going to do? What are the people on the bottom when they have nothing left between them? It's like, you can't take from them. What are they going to do? And you are not going to give them. They're going to eat each other. They're going to go against each other. They're going to police each other, and they're going to try to go on top of each other. So the bottom is bound to try to emulate the top, because they're going to try to go on top of each other to be one head level ahead, above the water, above the flood that is coming to take us. And more of you have started to realize that this fanfaronade of positive thinking, of the aliens are coming to save us, or the spiritual masters are intervening, or the what are they called? All kind of different nonsensical things, all these channelers, T.L. Swan, and God knows how many other these new ages that are completely taken by the dark side, that they've lent a willing hand to this mass hypnosis, to this mass brainwashing, to keep the population asleep while the cards are played. And now you wake up and you realize that the game was rigged, and you unfortunately realize that there isn't much left to maneuver within that setup game, and there is nothing. There is no coaching about success and how to work harder, play harder, because the resources are no longer there. You can only sell when people have money. People don't have money. People can't, because the top are siphoning all the resources, the little resources left from the bottom that is already dried. They sucked us dried, and now the only thing that is left, what is it? Like your food, your heating, your homes, and those are taken away from you. Such large number of people can barely afford a rented accommodation. Adults and even families now live in multiple accommodation. Nobody can, very few can afford really to live a decent, honorable life in their own home, not rented, not mortgaged. And they're siphoning. Then the few that are making some strides are those that are willing to model the top abusers by doing everything in their power. Consequences be done. In fact, they don't really care. Stepping onto other people's shoulders and head to go ahead to get one level above them by taking advantage of the crisis, of the chaos, whether it's in property investment and social housing investment, whether it's in supported accommodation, supported living businesses. They're just these advantage takers, amoral people that are willing to do anything, still thinking that they're honorable people because they are providing services, but all they're doing, they're just milking the system and trying to fill in the little loopholes left that can provide them with that one up over those that are about to sink with the ship, over the the bottom. So in a way, I'm glad to see that the mass hypnosis, it's about to break down, that people start to realize that work hard and strive for success was now, like, do good studies at university, do everything, keep your head down and just advance your career, has never, because you look at people who have gone through university degrees, have done everything in their power, and they found themselves unemployed. They had to change 2 or 3 or 4 times different kind of occupations, because the world, the top now, because of course the bottom has provided them with all the resources and cheap labor, slave labor, really, for them to be able to have insane amount of resources to satisfy their fancies in the worst technological development, such as the AI. We hear this nonsensical thing about global warming. Nobody's looking at you can't put two and two together. Stop eating meat, but on the other hand, you allow the corporations to, and even charities, the main motto is to increase profit. To increase profit, you need to expand, and faster and faster and more, and that is never questioned when we are looking at the consequences on our planet, on the health of the workers and so on, and on the global population. There are so many disconnected dots, because people's minds have been fragmented by this mass formation from the top to the bottom, and the middle has always been instrumental in keeping the bottom at the bottom on behalf of the top. The middle now have sunk to become the bottom. The bottom now have become homeless, and the middle have become the bottom. And the great awakening starts when the middle, which used to be called the middle class, when the middle start realizing that they have become the new poor, that they put up with a system, that they went with yes sir, yes ma'am, and then didn't ask many questions, because they wanted a place at the table. They were silently, implicitly offered a place at the rich table, as long as they were playing the Cerberus, the watchdogs of the elites. And they didn't mind as long as they had their fair share. Now they realize that they've been cheated, that their academic studies are worth squat, because most of what they've learned, it's not real. The science, the psychology, the medicine, you're looking that very few people are going to medicine, not only because they realize how useless they are as doctors when it comes to people's diseases, not to mention the mental health, because that's a complete, cock up, and then most of the things are false in there, such as depression being caused by brain chemical imbalance and things. Now, they realize that, as one doctor friend said, most of we know that we are medicating people's miseries. Exactly, this is what it is. All illnesses, or most illnesses, are caused by poverty, abuse, social inequality, and social injustice. When people live in misery, and they cannot develop in as the rich can, they live in survival. They live in that animalic state. So their spiritual, their cognitive functions are not developed. They're in a way subhuman, and they're kept subhuman by the elites, because without people inferior to them, how could they feel superior? if people would have the same opportunities to learn and study, to share all the resource that God has given us equally, there will be no superiority. They will have to chip in and start cleaning and washing and doing things just like everybody else. Take turns. But they, God forbid. So they will do anything in their power to maintain that position. And you, in a way, if you're looking at and if you know anything about psychology and human behavior, or if you've been a trauma survivor, if you are a trauma survivor, if you take one step back and you look from personal to social to global, you'll see a striking similarity. Today's society behaves just like a trauma victim. Today's society is the victim of the abuser and behave like the victim of an abuser. We are all abused people who have, just like the children who have who lived in abusive families, who on one hand they respect and they fear their abusive parents, and on the other they deep down they don't want to, when the social services or even when you work with them, they don't want to tell people that the parents are abusing them, because it's almost like something is taken away from them. It's like in the core, in the deep recesses of their mind, there is that little flame of hope that maybe they're not so bad. Maybe it was just their imagination. Maybe they had a bad day. They can't possibly hate them. No, that's not what it is. They're waiting for that day when they actually turn and say, "No, I love you. I'm sorry. I had and this is what's happening in society. People have a very hard time to believe that those at the top actually don't give a damn about them, and then it's not only neglect, but is abuse. It is intentional abuse. Is not accidental abuse. It is intentional abuse, because those at the top know very well what they're doing and what they've been doing, and they set a social structure, an educational system, a work system, a managerial structure and education and courses, indoctrinating the middle players, the controllers, if you want, trained to keep the bottom in place. And they've been doing that deliberately, full knowingly, after studies and studies and studies that the middle have lent their hand and their brains, like the Milgram experiment, like all the other social experiments, psychological experiments, that they've lent their hand to inform the top, the elites, how the masses work and how you can weaponize their own proclivities against them without them realizing. That's what's happening. So I really, really hope that more and more of you take that one step back and look at the society with sober mind and eyes. And no matter how hard that reality will hit you, the sooner you accept it, and the sooner you put your foot down and you say, no more. I'm not buying this anymore. I'm not going to comply anymore. I'm not going to compete with my colleagues and with my friends. I'm not going to put up with this nonsense. And every single time when I see the mid layers, these little lackeys of the top trying to set us one against the other, we just say, sorry, no, no, I'm not doing that. And instead of playing their hand, instead of disuniting, instead of going one against the other, to just go closer, helping one another and put them out. Because without the bottom, there is no top. If the bottom will stop working for them, they will have to do the bloody work themselves. Unfortunately, you've been distracted and you let this happen. Until now, they accumulated the resources. When soon enough, they will no longer need you to work because they have the AI and the robots. And then they can dispose of you, of us. But there is still very little time left for us to put an end to that, for us to put an end to AI and to robots. Because we can just rise up and say, sorry, who said that that's the direction that we want? We don't want that. Who said that you need to put AI and robots in place? Sorry, no. Who said that you can allow Tesco to be cashless or to go to the tills and do automatic scanning, and when that could give people jobs just for them to have higher profits? No. And if that's the case, then let's go to the countryside. Let's repopulate our lands and start creating our own economy, and let them sell their shit to whoever they want. The thing is, we have still, the bottom has always been the richer and the most powerful, but our richness and our power has been siphoned to maintain these parasites at the top, these liches, these fleas at the top. This is what they are. And I hope to God that you wake up and don't buy into any more bullshit of this positive psychology and into mindfulness and into just be positive and hope for another. Don't hope for anything, because you're about to be killed. You're about to be exterminated. You're about to be transformed into a non-human if you are not waking up and if you're not saying stop. We need to stop this madness. We need to stop this takeover by AI and by transhumanism and by transgenic mutation. We have to decide our own fate, not let it in the power of the few. And we need to have the courage and responsibility to work on ourselves first, to make sure that our intentions and our characters are straight, and then unite, help one another. The more you help your neighbor, the more you help your colleague, the stronger the bonds are growing, and the stronger the bottom is growing, and the more solid. And then that's how we rise. That's how we prevent what is about to happen. If we are not doing that, I guarantee you there is no hope for this humanity. And within the next 10 years, you won't recognize what we have become. You won't even have the capability to think, to reflect on that, because your brain is no longer going to access that kind of level of thinking.